Hi there everyone, my name is Dominic and welcome back to another Q&A session, this one marking the 5,000 subscriber milestone, which showed up a lot faster than I was expecting. I thought there was going to be a much bigger gap of time, but there's been sort of a bit of an exponential growth in the channel lately, so I figured that's a good thing though. Obviously I'm very excited about all the new people enjoying the stuff that I've been making and glad that it's reaching a bit of a wider audience. So I figured, you know what, it might be a little bit soon after the last Q&A video, but there's kind of an unending amount of topics, to chat about, I mean, considering, the average podcast that is out there is, that's talking about no specific topic. If a random podcast can do, 500 episodes on random shit, I figure me doing a second Q&A a few weeks after the last one is probably not too indulgent. So, and also too, I wanted to do it because I asked for more questions. And first off, I got a lot of great questions. I just want to say, all around, well done. A lot of, good variety kind of questions. Some, kind of nicely kind of general to be able to know a little more about me on a broader sense. Some very niche kind of and specific questions, which I like those too. I like getting to kind of dive into something very hyper specific. I think that's a fun thing to trade off with. So once again, this is going to be a disorganized one, which I like better. I don't really like the idea of me kind of pre-formatting this by prepping a bunch of questions and picking them all out on a spreadsheet. So I'm just going to be going through the ones that have been asked, grabbing a few here and there. And I might even kind of do a part 2 of this if it gets a little bit long in the tooth, but there's still more questions that I want to answer. So we'll see how it goes. I'm kind of figuring this one I'm going to shoot for the 45-minute kind of mark. And then, like I said, if there's still a bunch of questions I wish I could get to, I might, extend it a little bit and do a part 2, because why not? It's my channel. Who cares how many Q&A videos I put up, especially because, these aren't the kind, this isn't something that I make because it's going to get traction in the algorithm. This is something that I make for me and I make for you. You know what I mean? This is, it's one of the kind of videos and pieces of content that you make where you go, this doesn't matter how well it does, in the algorithm or how many views or whatever. It's just a nice way for me to connect to anyone who's been here a while and wants to ask questions, or maybe you're brand new here and this is a way for you to get to know me a little bit, or maybe you're listening to this way down the line. Maybe this video has been out for a while and you've just found the channel and the channel's progressed way past, and you're able to look back and listen to my Q&A and, kind of hear a little bit about me or how things maybe have changed since I put this out. So, whatever brings you to here, I think these are always worth taking the time. And plus, I just like getting to chat with you more directly. I don't have that many chances to do it at the moment because I'm so busy. So, all right, let's dive in. I'm just going to scroll through and let me grab a few and we'll kind of bounce around on topics and go from there. All right, let's see. First one, what is your dream house and or car? This is a good one. I'd say for house, it's more specific. For car, I'm not much of a car person. I appreciate them, but I'm not someone who, I don't really think of cars as status symbols. I want a car that is fun to drive. That would be my goal. So design-wise, in terms of kind of classic cars, I love Shelby Cobras. I think they're just a gorgeous car. If you're not familiar with it, definitely look up an image of it. Maybe I'll even toss one in the video here for a little visual reference. That's when my dad growing up was a big fan of these cars. I like them because unlike a lot of higher end sports style cars, I love the kind of flowing lines to them, and this is a topic that I'll have to put up a picture or you'll have to look it up, because obviously if I'm describing this just verbally, it's not going to be of much use, but it doesn't have the hard edge lines of a lot of race cars, and there's something more classic about the look of it while still being a noteworthy sports vehicle. I think the original Shelby Cobra vehicles are insanely expensive, but they have copies of them that are available. So that's one of those, if I just had, all the money in the world to go pick a vintage classic car, it'd probably be that one, because it stands out, but not in a really loud kind of way, if that makes sense. It's a very unique kind of artistic piece of car design, and I think that's really cool. You can feel that it was pushing for something different and not trying to be the sleekest, sharpest looking thing. It was trying to be unique and have its own kind of place, which I think is cool. For a house, I don't know. I mean, if I'm being honest, I have a specific answer to this, which there was a specific house in Southern California that I have saved. It's not even on the market or anything, nor can I afford it. It's not cheap. It's an expensive, very expensive house. Basically like a little mansion kind of, it's like a little French mansion cottage kind of house. But I have one that I'm like, okay, it's what helps keep me motivated, because I legitimately would go look at the listing for this property and be like, all right, there's the dream house, there's the little fairy tale house. So in general though, just a house with personality, and a little bit of land. I don't necessarily need a lot of it, but I can never function in a place that didn't give me at least like a really nice backyard, and preferably some gardening, some flower beds and that kind of stuff in the front of the house. I love a house that has like vines and stuff crawling up the walls, that has some history, some kind of presence to it. So definitely for house, it would have to be something dramatic. I hate modern, and by modern, I mean like the sleek, all white kind of mausoleum look that was it Kanye West too? Like one of his houses was like that. They showed pictures inside and it was pure white and almost completely undecorated. And I hate that shit. Like it's because that's not even minimalism. That's just like miserableism. You know what I mean? Like it's just depleted of any personality, any life or vibrancy to it. So definitely I love houses with personality. I love a house that I could kind of make my own, add my pictures and photography to the walls, and decorate it. And I love Art Deco styles, definitely kind of turn of the century house design. A lot of that is just really cool. Lots of, the dark hard wood, and you're dealing with the kind of brighter brass and gold fixtures and kind of, green colors. It's a gorgeous color combo. So if I could find something like that, which like I said, I have one that kind of fits all of those criteria that I'm not going to say because one of you millionaires listening to me is going to swoop in and take it if I get too specific. But just know, I've got a dream house in mind. And I've actually been there. That's the funny thing. I actually lied and pretended that I had money so I could go to a viewing of it. I don't know, a few years ago when it was on the market. And the realtor, as soon as I got there, I could tell he was like, fuck you, wasting my time. But I didn't care. I was like, whatever. You know what? You're a real estate agent listing $1 million houses. You can deal with one 20-something-year-old, looking around. So, but again, they can't really say anything. They can't accuse you of anything on the spot because it would be unprofessional. But I could just tell from the side eye he was giving me, because I was the only one viewing it. It was a viewing just for me that I had, which I didn't realize. I wasn't trying to be like a dick and waste anyone's time. I just called and asked, to make a viewing time. But I got to actually go into this dream house and see all the different levels of it and all the little rooms. And then, they had a breakfast nook and it just had all these gorgeous little details, as well as a lot of greenery around it that made it feel just absolutely just beautiful. Just a house that was gorgeous, but I don't like a house that is imposing. Like it shouldn't feel like a hotel. You know what I mean? Like I see houses that have giant pillars out front and all that. And it's not wrong to do it that way if that's your thing, but I feel like it's just so grandiose. And I want it to be something that you go into the house and it's bigger inside than you expect it to be. You know what I mean? The front of it is kind of beautiful and has flowers and culture and brickwork and all that kind of texture and history to it. And then you go into the house and you're like, oh shit, this place actually is a little bit of a mansion. It has a lot to it. And one thing that just was a selling point for it was it has an upstairs, it's calling it an attic is disingenuous because it's so gorgeous, but it has this attic loft area up top with an office attached to it. And I'm like, oh my God, it has a little window that looks out on the backyard. It was just gorgeous. And I was like, and it had storage along the sides. And in my head, immediately, I'm like, this is the photo studio. Like this is my spot, a little, recording booth in the corner, and my gear can be stashed in the storage in the wall. And it's just the ceilings are just big enough that I could have a little, studio, photography, music, recording space. And it has that detached office to the side, so I can have all that laid out and still have a little workplace for myself to go and just kind of hunker down and get work done and get projects done. So so my vision for a perfect house is rather specific. Or frankly, I also would not mind a castle. Like legitimately, I've looked into how much they cost. Like a castle somewhere in Europe. They're not as expensive as you might think is the fucking crazy thing. Like there are houses in LA in the middle of, not far from downtown in, South Central and some of these areas, and areas that are just, the house is not kept up. It's run down. It's not even in a great area. And the house is tiny with no yard, and it's $2 million. And then you'll look at like, it'll be like a small chateau castle in France or Scotland. And it's like $1.5 million for a real fucking castle. That's thing too, not a recreation, literally a refurbished castle that's been there for fucking decades and what am I saying, centuries, on and on and on, you know? So the idea of living in a castle would be amazing. I saw one time, I saw a listing, and the main building was like this giant chateau castle estate. But it had, not only did the grounds have gardens everywhere, and it had a giant, massive greenhouse, but the greenhouse, you know, was lined with like brass, you know, was the look of it. So it almost was like golden looking in the sun. But then the side of the house had a separate greenhouse with that same style, those kind of, you know, golden brass fixtures with just windows all over it. And inside it had seating and it had a bar, like a full bar for pouring drinks. And I was like, what a cool idea. Like if the weather's nice, you go out there on a rainy day, the rain's coming down on the sloped windows, and you're there hanging out with some friends, you're having a drink, you're just relaxing, you know, like what a cool idea, you know? So there's lots of inspirations I see that I'm like, okay, if I was ever at a point that I could cobble together whatever house I want to just make it from scratch and buy a giant plot of land, it would feature a lot of small touches like that to bring out the personality. Because I think a house needs to be something that you have to validate why you want it, you know, why it means something to you, not just to say, well, you know, the square footage is huge though. Because I see some of these houses when I'll just be looking out of curiosity at listings for houses that I could, you know, I just obviously can't afford. They're crazy expensive. And I see so many that are like, you know, they're like, oh, they're 6,000 square feet. And you look at them and they're just like room after room after room after room. And they have 15 bedrooms and they have giant open rooms of nothing and multiple dining rooms. And I'm like, that's not fun. Like it's just to show off how many extra bedrooms you have that are cold and lifeless and unused. And you have to decorate all of them for no one really to use them. You know, I'm like, because you're not making a space for yourself or just, you know, yourself, your family. Like it's not that kind of thing. It's a kind of place that you bring people to just to show off that you have it. I hate that. Like, so that's the thing for me. It's like, it needs to be somewhere that has space to kind of maneuver and kind of be able to have the lifestyle that I want, which is just, I have a lot of stuff, frankly. I have a lot of shit that I need room for and a lot of stuff I want to decorate and all that. But it needs to be homey, you know what I mean? It needs to not be somewhere that's meant to be imposing or intimidating, because that's not comfortable and that's not fun. So yeah, so we'll start off there. That's a good question actually, because I have, as you can hear, very strong opinions on that. So all right, let me grab a couple others. Oh, this isn't easy. This is a quick one, easy one. What's your favorite cuisine? My favorite type of food, first off, is Japanese, for sure. Growing up, my parents, and I appreciate them very much for this, were very adventurous with food. They loved eating lots of different type of cuisine. We were trying lots of different stuff all the time. I was eating tons of different types of Asian food when I was 5 or 6, you know. And just absolutely loved it. So my parents exposed me to a huge, broad palette of food very early and different types of flavors. And my dad especially was really big into cooking and really taught me how to season and how to taste like a chef, because he was one who had no professional experience. He would just get a lot of cookbooks by really good chefs, you know, who were big on bold flavors. And he would just teach me how to kind of taste something and, you know, figure out what's missing and what the different flavor profiles are. And to taste something, okay, it has a lot of kind of aromatic taste to it, but it needs some earthiness, you know. I can't tell what it's missing, so it probably needs salt, you know, that kind of thing. So Japanese first, I think, is one of the rare ones that is funny because I like really strong, intense flavors, which is not really Japanese cooking. They rely a lot on good Japanese cuisine. It's a lot about simplicity of ingredients, you know, like with sushi and a lot of the kind of items you would get at a good Japanese restaurant. It's about the ingredients themselves being such high quality that they stand out. And I think that's really cool because it makes it so there's nowhere kind of to hide. You know, it's hard to be mediocre with Japanese food. Japanese food usually lands between like the places I've gone either are like, oh my God, why didn't I know about this place? It's so fresh, it's so good. Or you taste it and you're like, oh, this is terrible. The tempura has no flavor. It's battered too thick. It's not cooked long enough. The sushi is not fresh. It's not cut correctly. Like very quickly you can tell, you know, if something's wrong. So on account of that, I have gone to a lot of Japanese places and a lot of just Asian restaurants, Asian fusion, that kind of stuff. So that definitely takes the cake first and foremost. Oddly enough, of all places, it's funny, I truly forget what it's called right now, and I wish I remembered the restaurant because I would love to give them a shout out. There was a sushi restaurant in the downtown area of Denver, Colorado, which is the weirdest place to try sushi. And I was like, it's one of those places you go and go, okay, I'm gonna give it a shot. And to my shock, it was some of the best fish I have ever had, some of the best sushi I've ever eaten in my life. And what's funny is the more that I learned about what makes good sushi good, it helped me to understand that it's not so much about the distance of how far somewhere is from the ocean. It's about the quality of the fish you're getting imported. And by that, I mean, once I started to learn more about the process of how sushi is made, obviously, ideally, if you're at the highest end place, it's getting caught that day or the day before and brought in and served to you. But that's not realistic for most Japanese restaurants, obviously. So what I didn't realize was what matters the most is if you, let's say you have an inn with a really good fisherman or a fishmonger who works with a certain amount of fishermen locally, and they can send you the best quality fish. And more importantly, they know which ships are freezing their fish as soon as they're caught. Because that's what is the main difference, is it doesn't matter. It can be frozen for a little while and be thawed and taste really fresh still when it's made into sushi. But the problem is most places, a bunch of fish are getting caught and then they're getting brought back, however long later, and then they're getting frozen and they're still perfectly fine, but they're not going to be as fresh tasting as if they were frozen as soon as they were caught. So after learning more about that, I was like, okay, so that's why you go somewhere, I've gone to places right by the beach, that have seafood and it's fucking awful. And it's because they must not be getting it from a good source. And then, I went to Denver, Colorado, and I just kept ordering more and more and more, even though I was not hungry anymore. I was so full, but it was so fresh and it was so clearly well prepared. So that's first and foremost. Beyond that, Japanese food first. And then I like most cuisine. There's very little that I don't enjoy. So that's priority. I love Italian food. That's like a good comfort food. It's not always top of my list, but I always enjoy it. If I want something hearty and just enjoyable, then I'm going to go for that. That, and then Mexican food, another one that's just a comfort food that it's not always my top thing that I want to eat all the time. But when I'm in the mood for something that's just going to be filling and rich and just warm comfort food, a big giant burrito, smothered in sauce and all, it's just so good. Especially if I can get somewhere that's decently authentic and has, especially if they have lengua. I love good lengua. Which is funny because I even my own family didn't really enjoy eating it because they just couldn't get over the fact that it was cow tongue, and I was like, okay, y'all are missing out. It's so good, it's so tender, it's so worth it, and if it's seasoned well, it's amazing. So those would be the top group there, I'd say. And then again, I like most food, so pretty much everything after that, Indian food, Chinese food, I enjoy all of it when I am in the mood. So, all right. Let's move on from here. I thought that was going to be a quick question, but I forget that I love food, so it wouldn't be nearly as quick as it should have been. Let's see. What's another good one? Since you have such a sweet voice, first off, thank you. I appreciate it. Have you ever thought about narrating an audiobook or something? So it's funny to say that. One, I have thought about that. I thought about pursuing that full-time many, many years ago when I was in my late teens, early 20s. I thought about just being an audiobook reader and trying to audition for that. And I never fully committed to doing it, just because I was doing other things at the time. I was doing work on my photography and my acting and I was just busy with other stuff at the time. But it's funny, it's one reason why over on my Patreon, actually, one of the things I wanted to do there to fill that gap a little bit is I do a weekly story time on there, which is just reading classic books. Already on there, I've read in their entireties The Curious Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I've read the entirety of that. I would see, what's The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, I'm pretty sure is the one. I'm trying to make sure I remember which one it is. I think it's The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. Read that entire book for my Patreon. And I've also read some poetry over there, a little bit of Edgar Allan Poe, and currently I'm one chapter at a time reading through a book called The Murder of Roger Ackroyd, which is an early Agatha Christie novel, one of the early Poirot stories, one of her famous detectives. So it's one thing I've actually thought about. And I've also thought, too, it's one of those things down the line, because I've talked many times about how I have no pretense that I'm going to be doing the same kind of content creating forever, nor would I want to, and also too, I feel like, if I'm 15 years down the line, still trying to do the same exact kind of role plays that I'm doing now, that would be silly. I think what you make needs to evolve with who you are. And that's also, I think, a way you don't get burnt out, is because you let it evolve with you. So on account of that, though, I could definitely see myself later on spending some time reading audiobooks and kind of focusing on that for a little while. What I'd love to do is at some point, if I had more time, because early in my teens, I wanted to be a novelist. And doing the work that I've been doing and doing more of my own writing for scripts and projects has helped to reinvigorate some of my confidence that, not for the moment because I just have other stuff I want to work on, but later in life, I wouldn't mind returning to the idea of writing a novel. So it would be fun to write a novel and then record the audiobook for it myself independently and then release that as well. That way you would kind of get the exact rendition that would be from my head of whatever I was writing, So I think that would be fun. So yes, definitely have thought about it, and it already kind of has a place in that I do the little story times on my Patreon. And then later in life, I can definitely see myself doing audiobooks as more of a full, active, part of my voice work, All right, let's see. Oh, here's a good creative one. How do you manage burnout or writer's block? So these are two separate things very much for me. Burnout can be a lot of different things. It can be, I like the work that I'm doing, but my mental health is just fried from other stuff going on in my life. It can be that I've been trying to push myself too much to do too many different creative projects at once, doing creative projects and pushing through them, even if I'm not enjoying them, and not being honest with myself to say, you know what, I don't owe this to anyone to continue doing creative work I don't enjoy. And people who are enjoying my work will enjoy it more if they can tell that I'm passionate about it. That's why pretty much, everything I'm doing now, I'm picking and choosing what I feel I have energy for, and not beating myself up over what I'm not doing. You know what I mean? Because it's easy to get into that, to say like, okay, well, this is the thing that I do. Like even for right now, there have been almost no gaming videos on my channel. And as much as like I do want to get back to them, I used to beat myself up for not posting them and not recording them more and just pushing through. And instead I've been like, well, okay, there's other stuff I want to work on, what I want to do, and it helped me to give myself a game plan. That way then I wouldn't have to feel guilty, because I'm like, no, this is part of what I've decided to do internally. Is I'm like, okay, I want to focus on my audios, and I want to do some longer stories. That's what I've been doing, like the Mafia series, and I have some other series that I want to continue. And I'm like, you know what? I can focus on those audios, and I want to get enough of them recorded and made so that way I have them scheduled and advanced a few weeks out. That way I'm not constantly editing, right before something's due. And that takes a little pressure off me for kind of one of the main, points of creativity that I'm doing and sharing, obviously. And I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm going to work on that for a while, get that to a place where I have a little more breathing room, and then I'm going to plug back into doing the gaming videos to be able to kind of fill in the middle of the week and stuff, posting videos and picking new games and finishing up existing series. And instead of trying to spread myself thin by trying to do all of it week to week, trying to spread myself over 3 or 4 different types of content and creativity, which was getting me a little fried, not because I didn't enjoy it, but just because I was spreading myself too thin between too many different disciplines. So things like that, where I've gotten much, much better about knowing my own limits and also being comfortable putting limits on things. I think it's easy as a creative to be like, I can do more, I can push more, especially if you're someone who's self-employed like I am. You can so get in this mindset that's so desperately like, okay, but it's fine. I don't have a 9 to 5. I don't have to clock out. I can work till 10 p.m. again and start at 10 a.m. the next day. And you drive yourself crazy doing this. That's why I had to start telling myself, because I realized after doing creative work throughout my life that if I sit there and say, okay, I'm going to get up, I'm going to have a little bit of a healthy morning routine. I'm going to read for a little bit. I'm going to take my supplements. I'm going to drink some water, have a little breakfast, do a meditation, kind of structure my day to start on the right foot. And then I'm going to work for 4 hours and on my creative stuff, my creative projects, and that's going to be it. And in this, the capitalistically trained mind will tell you, that's not enough. That's not, you lazy fuck. That's not enough work. But what's better, working for 8 or 9 hours of stress and pressure where your brain is slowing down and you're pushing through and you're not working at your best and you're probably not getting very much done anyway because you're exhausted and you want to stop? Or starting your day better, giving yourself like 4 or 5 hours of really good constructive productivity where you're really just hammering away at projects and you're really going for it. And then you give yourself that concentrated but focused amount of time to be productive, and then you call it a day. Then you go play a video game and you don't stress about it. And you go watch a show and you don't let yourself feel any guilt over it. You tell yourself, you know what? This is also nourishing to me. It's not, this is not an outlier. It's not a waste of time where I'm reading a book, but I could be hustling harder. That's a super unhealthy mindset. Like, people talk like that, and I'm like, they're the ones I think are going to get burnt out the quickest, who are like, you got to hustle all the time, longer than your enemy. That's the thing I hear a lot too. And I used to be part of this hustle mindset for so much of my early 20s. This notion of like, I'm doing more work while my enemies are sleeping, And it's fucking exhausting because one, you are trying to construct creativity out of a competitiveness. And that's a horrible fucking way to create. It's awful. It's like making an album and being like, I'm going to make my album so much better so this other band can fucking suck and they can fail. And it's like, no, I don't want that. I don't want that at all. The same way as I feel no competition with other audio creators in this space. And quite to the contrary, it's really nice getting to talk to other creators and being able to just chat with them and share honestly about the struggles of creative work, and encourage one another and be able to ask for advice. Like, keeping those channels open is so much more invigorating than treating them like competition, because there's room for all of us, especially in a creative field. You're not doing something that is quantifiable, You're not doing something that can easily be replicated by anyone else. You know what I mean? Like, the work that I do, it's not because people aren't listening to me because there are no other audio roleplay creators. You know what I mean? They're listening because there's something in my work that you are enjoying, and that's all that matters. And it also is not exclusive, you don't have to enjoy mine and not enjoy others just in the same way you would, not limit yourself to the food or music you enjoy. So that has helped me a lot to not get burnt out, is to not treat everything competitively. And just the whole notion of like treating competition and building enemies in a creative space. And I'm like, versus the stuff I hear now, because I've filled my life with a lot more mindfulness and thoughtfulness, is the idea of, it's a simple phrase. It's just to say, I have no enemies. And I didn't understand what it meant for a while. I would see people comment it on mindfulness TikToks and stuff, and I didn't really get what it was going for until I realized, I was like, oh, what's being said here is people can make me an enemy if they want to, if they have some problem with me, or if they just don't like me, or if they look down on me, whatever. But I have no enemies. It's a control that I have. I will never have an enemy. I have people who might be antagonistic to my happiness or my well-being. And if there's someone in my life that I can place a boundary with, then I can do that. And that's my ability to respect my own needs. But the idea that no matter, because again, I've had people send me horrible messages and harassing me and stuff and sending me anonymous shit that's awful. And it really fucked with me for a while. It was really degrading my mental health because I hadn't dealt with it before, especially as a content creator. And then I just realized, I was like, you know what? It doesn't matter. And their life is worse because this is what they're spending. They're spending their time invested in hatred and just the displeasure of trying to goad a horrible reaction out of someone else. And it's a weird thing to say, I can still have compassion for that person harassing me. That doesn't mean what they're doing is okay, obviously. It doesn't mean I accept it as acceptable, but it means that I can go, I have compassion because I pity and I feel sorrow over the fact that this is what your life is like, because I am expressing creativity. I'm expressing part of myself in a personal way, and I'm getting to share it with people who are excited to enjoy it and to listen and to give me their thoughts on it and fill in gaps in the story and kind of put themselves in these experiences. And that's really cool and rewarding. That's a really just a cool creative experience to share with all of you. So that's something that changed my perspective a lot, was just I carry that with me now, this idea of I have no enemies. You know what? Again, there are people who may be negative in my life, and I can either try to communicate with them if they're a friend, someone that I can try to share with and try to see if I can grow together with them in some wisdom. And if not, I can place boundaries. And if they're just some random fucking person on the internet, on social media, on a platform where it's like, if this shit is not real, it's not important at all, then it's okay. Then I can let it go. you know? Again, doesn't mean anyone wants it. It's awful. Again, this is not an invitation. Don't harass people in general. It's awful. Like, don't harass people. Give people their fucking privacy. Be fucking decent to people. Like, it's fucking free, and you destroy yourself when you choose indecency, just in the same way you destroy yourself when you choose negativity in your own mindset. And it's the thing. It's like, no, these people who think in that way and express themselves to others in that shitty way, they're self-destructing in their own way. They may not realize it. They may not even feel it. You know, they may feel like they're fine with it. People can become very calloused to the point where they build normalcy into being spiteful and mean, and they treat it as some strength or some defense. But deep down, it's not. That's the thing. Deep down, the people that they attract who share that energy will never be the ones to build them into lasting contentment and joy. You know what I mean? So, anyway, that's a very long rant on burnout. But so yeah, it's a multifaceted thing, but it's a lot of just knowing when to take space for yourself and knowing how to pivot to things, knowing how to change your mindset on what's getting you burnt out. Because often the way forward is through, not to avoid. That's something I realized. A lot of times when I step away from my creative work, it's not actually giving me more rest. It's giving me more stress because I'm not expressing part of myself that I want to be. Instead of me making a game plan to say, okay, then I don't need to work as long of a day. If I can do one single project, or I can do 1 hour of good creative work, and then the rest of the day, I'm going to rest up. That's going to make me feel better than if I didn't do any of that work at all. Pushing through in a healthy, kind of constructive way is almost always, I think, better. And I think that's, because it takes, you're pushing through and making peace with a little bit of that discomfort in order to grow and to be able to actually use it as a way to assess what's going to make an improvement instead of just kind of pulling back and retreating from it. So the second half of this question is about writer's block. And writer's block, I have an answer that may sound dismissive, kind of offhand. So I'll preface this by saying I don't mean it in a dismissive way, which is that I don't believe it exists. What I mean by that is not to say it's not, there's not times where it's difficult to write, because it fucking is. There's plenty of times where the blank page is terrible. But in my experience, the people who regularly say they have writer's block and they just can't write anything. It's just not there. Inspiration hasn't struck. And I always kind of think, I go, okay, but it's not that you can't write. The fingers still work. The keyboard still works. You're afraid of writing badly. And that's what's holding you back. But write badly. I forget who it was, but it was a composer talking about another composer he was talking to and saying, oh my God, what do you, like, I have this score coming up and I don't know where to start. I don't feel like I have any inspiration. What do I fucking write? It's music, If I don't have a score for this movie, it's gonna, I'm gonna, ruin the whole project. And the other composer, I guess, was talking and he said, I just make something bad. and he's like, what? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, and it gets better over time. But he's like, I just go, okay, I got a deadline. This movie needs a score, and I'm better to have swing for the fences and make a bad score than no score at all, because that's, fraud, that's me not doing my job at all. But almost always that journey of discovery, he went on to talk about, is you make something bad and then you start to find something in it. Then you get one little thing that you go, okay, there's something in there. There's a melody, there's a point there, there's a phrase of words. And that maybe that little nugget of something is more interesting than all the shit you've already written that day. But there you go. That means that day was a success. You found a little something. And even if you get through a day and you've written a whole fucking page or two of bad writing or bad storytelling, and you don't find any nugget of wisdom in it or any great idea, and you go to bed and go, fuck, what a waste. It's not. You got to imagine it like you're clearing out, it's like this idea of like these bad words and these kind of just these garbage ideas are in there. And the faster you get that shit out, the faster the good stuff is going to be there. You have to expunge it from the system. You got to kind of blow the garbage out of the airlock, to be able to have the clarity to find the thing that is working and is interesting and is totally connecting in the right way. So that's my advice, is don't be afraid to write badly. Every writer storyteller feels that way. They feel an imposter syndrome that they're writing when it is well received shouldn't be, and when they are writing that it's bad. I guarantee you it's not as bad as you think. And the reason I think that is because if you're truly good at something, or at least you're willing to learn and become better at it, you can only be so bad. You know what I mean? Like, it's like if you took a really good painter and made them paint under some pressure, it may not be their masterpiece, but it's not going to be good dog shit. It's not going to be what someone else will do who doesn't know how to paint at all. It's going to be, from their perspective, less quality than they would have liked. But that's different. That doesn't mean it's bad. I think that a lot. There are times where I listen to audios I've made and things I've written, and I go, fuck, this is not up to scratch. Because I'm holding myself against this arbitrary rule, comparing it to whatever I think my best work is, which is also subjective, frankly, because I put it out there, and what is my favorite may not be your favorite of my work. And that's okay. That's a good thing. That's where personal engagement comes into play. So yeah, don't be afraid of writing bad. It's perfectly fine. It's nothing wrong with that. And if anything, if it really is bad, but you're willing to learn from it, it's going to be a roadmap to lead you to better quality. When I shoot projects, when I was doing, learning cinematography and camera work and photography, the amount of shoots that I would look back on later and be like, this is dreadful. But I would look at it and I would compare it to work that I really liked from other photographers or cinematographers, like idols of mine. And I go, okay, this looks awful compared to their work, but why? What's different? What did they do? And if I can find behind the scenes to be able to kind of get a peek at it, and I can go, oh, okay. It's because I didn't think about putting the light over here, or I didn't even try this idea. I even tried to maneuver the position of the camera to change the feel of this. Oh, of course. If I had changed these 3 things, it wouldn't have been a masterpiece, but it would have gotten better. And now, no matter what project I work on, there's a comfort to lean back into to go, okay, on my worst day, I can still do good work. Because it might not be groundbreaking, but I have invested so much time being bad that I know how not to be bad anymore. Again, it's not always going to be astounding and the best work of my life. But when I go onto a project, I can go, okay, well, I know my photography on today is not going to look like shit though, because I know how to light now. I know what not to do. So no matter what, this will look okay. It's going to be fine, even if it's not absolutely perfect. So, all right, I'm going to grab more questions. Also, I just heard, I think my cat might be at the door, the front door. So I will be right back and consider this a little break. All right. I'll put a picture of my cat Ellie in here with some music for you to enjoy for about 5 seconds. All right, let's chat for a little bit longer. Yeah, I think I will do a part 2 to this because I'm just kind of tired tonight. So I don't want to have this rambling on for too long and have me get exhausted and incoherent as I answer questions, but there is more good questions I want to answer, so I'll make another one of these. I wouldn't mind that. That was a good one. Would you ever open a business, and what would it be? Definitely. I think it's fair to say about myself that I'm a pretty multifaceted person, so I definitely have ideas for businesses. The main one would be I'd love to open a bar or probably a restaurant, honestly, because I like food so much, and really try to make something that was just cool, that had just a lot of really cool theming and cool lighting, just very, very stylized and dramatic and unashamed, something that had, music going on. I don't know. I have some loose ideas in my head for future me to do, and to be clear, I wouldn't want to be like a restaurateur. I wouldn't want to open a bunch of restaurants. I would just love to be able to have a restaurant that I pour all this creativity into, just because I think that would be cool. Like a good experience to be able to walk into my own restaurant and, that's well curated and has food that I'm really proud of, that's being made really well, and a mix of drinks that are really interesting and cool, and theming that's really interesting. I would love, again, I think a lot of restaurants could do cooler things with their theming and their lighting. Like, even as silly as it might sound, I'm like, even with sound design, like imagine if you go into somewhere and a certain part of the bar, maybe it's split into different sections, and one part of it is like this dark, gothic, stormy environment, Like there's sounds playing and spooky music, and there's rain on the windows, and it's like fully theatrical. And then another area is like, is bright and vibrant and glass and chrome. Like, I don't know. Again, it might not all mesh. I'm just spitballing here, but just, what I mean? Like, I think most restaurants, the problem with them is that they're too fucking boring. That's the thing with most things in life. If art, if food, if all these things were more fucking exciting and not pretentious, to be clear, there's a difference, but truly just going for it in terms of just a crazy idea and a theme and committing to it. People don't always have to, it doesn't have to be their idea of the perfect crazy idea, but people can still appreciate it. When you go somewhere that has a crazy theme or idea, it's usually interesting. It's worth going. I love, for example, like the Meow Wolf installments, which if you don't know, they're these giant immersive art installations, but art installation is too uptight of a word because they're more like you're in a weird improv theater play. Like they're just these bizarre, often sci-fi styled experiences where basically it's the storytelling of like a FromSoft game where You go in and there's no explanations for things. They just are. You have to uncover mysteries throughout the different places. And each location that Meow Wolf, the company, is the one who runs these places. And each of these installations has a completely different theme and story. And you're crawling in, like, sometimes you're going through the fucking walls of these places and you're climbing into like little mock-up houses and you're climbing up rope ladders. Like, you're doing crazy shit to be able to uncover all this stuff and uncover all the secrets that are placed. And when you find the secrets and piece them together, they make a large interwoven story, usually some conspiratorial kind of idea. They're really fucking cool. The one in Vegas is really good. There's another one, oh goodness, I'm gonna look it up because I don't want to get it wrong. I want to say it might be Denver, because I think it might have been part of that trip, but let me see. Because I want to say there's 4 of them. Let's see. Meow Wolf, there is one. Yeah, it's called Convergence Station, and it is in Denver. Yeah, that one is super fucking cool. I absolutely love that one. The one in Vegas is called Omega Mart, also very cool. There's one in Santa Fe, and I think they're opening another one somewhere else, but I forget. So that's one. If you're an artist especially, make time to go. It's really, really fucking cool. Because the way they do it is for each project, they'll employ like a couple hundred different artists to work on it. So it's not this big corporate like escape room. Like, it's literally like there's things in there where if you activate certain things, you can make the lighting change. You can figure out a certain puzzle and it'll shut the lights down in an area, you know? Like, there's a thing in Omega Mart when you first go in and it looks like a somewhat normal supermarket where if someone has figured out part of the mystery elsewhere in the experience, then the lights flicker and all the staff pretend like they got shut down like robots. Like, all of them just go limp standing there until the power reactivates. It's really fucking cool. It's really fun. The staff there are allowed to be super weird and crazy because they're playing these bizarre characters in this universe. So it's just fun. It's one of those, if you just have an open mind and love a good experience and you're not afraid of some weirdness, like creative weirdness, go there and I will tell you, spend the whole fucking day. Like, literally, just go there when they open. Do not do what I see. I've seen reviews of people who go to these installations and they're like, yeah, I went in there for an hour. It was really confusing. And I'm like, you can't do that. It's not that kind of experience. It's not a walkthrough. It's one of those where you find a piece of a puzzle somewhere on a computer in one room and you go, oh shit, I need to go check out a painting on a wall downstairs, 2 stories down on the other end of the installation, because there was something referenced there. It's stuff like that where you're running back and forth and it's like this massive conspiracy scavenger hunt with sci-fi stuff layered over it. It's just fucking cool. Like, it's really hard to explain. It's really weird, but it's very cool. There's a lot of good tech stuff, a lot of avant-garde weird shit. But again, I don't feel like it's pretentious. I feel like it's just strange and unusual and unafraid of doing that. So if you have a chance to go to a Meow Wolf installment, please do. I don't think you'll regret it. And from what I remember, the tickets were also not crazy expensive either, considering when I have gone to them, I've been there for hours and hours. So, all right. This is a quick one I can answer, which was, do you have a wish list? We can send you goodies. I do, actually. It should be pretty easy to find. My link in my YouTube bio has, you can actually, the easiest way to say this is that in my about section, there should be some links there. And the one that ends in card.co, CARDD.co, that's like my link tree basically is what that is. Card is like a landing page where you can put all your links. So my wish list should be on there, I'm pretty sure. And then that's my Throne wish list. And that's a really easy way. If you want to buy me anything, if you get it there, then it gets sent directly to me, and Throne, their team handles making sure it's purchased and shipped correctly. I've never had issues with them before. So that's a really good way. If you feel like buying me something, never feel obligated to. Obviously, I always feel like I need to say that. That said, I do appreciate it. It really does lift my spirits a lot. No matter how big or small, like getting anything is just a cool surprise, because it is a surprise and I don't expect it at all. So, of course, that said, the wish list is an 18 and up only thing. If Daddy has some inappropriate stuff on there, don't go to my wish list if you're not an adult, all right? I want to be clear about that. Like, my content here on YouTube is more varied in obviously who can enjoy it, but most of what I make is for big boys and girls, okay? All right, and I take that very fucking seriously. So no minors allowed, all right? Make sure you get your parents' permission, but don't do that because that's the wrong message. Be an adult, and then you can enjoy checking out my wish list on my other stuff. So, but anyway, yes, I do have a wish list. It's there. I keep it updated pretty regularly with a big mix of different kind of stuff that I like, and it's always there if you're feeling generous, you know. All right, let me do one more for the moment, and then yeah, I'll do a part 2. Again, so many good questions. Yeah, I could go on for such a long time. Maybe I can do a few of these a little bit rapid fire. Do you like roller coasters? I do. I don't go on them that much anymore just because I'm not going to theme parks as often, but I still have a pass to Universal Studios, and I go there and enjoy, pretty much everything there, especially the Harry Potter ride, like what's it called? The Forbidden Journey. That's like it's like a mix of everything. It has animatronics and it has screens and it like the chair you're in flips all around and it's like a full motion simulator. That ride's fucking fantastic. I haven't been to Six Flags in forever, but I did used to like going there, and I always thought most of the rides were fun, except for the Batman ride. It spins you in those little corkscrews, and it makes my head hurt, it makes me feel sick, and I don't like it. But most of the other rides are pretty cool, and I enjoy them. So yeah, roller coasters are good. Let's see, what else? Here's one. I'm going to talk about this. This is too long of a question to end this with. If you were given $1 million, what would you do with it? I don't talk a lot about finance on my channels because I don't want to ever seem like I'm pretending to be some financial advisor, because I'm absolutely not. But I am a little bit of a finance guy in just that I'm the one who in like the kind of in real life friend group where I'm like, okay, do you have a Roth IRA? Do you own any stocks and all that? And I'm trying to I've had friends whenever there's stuff that happens in the stock market who shoot me messages and are like, explain this to me like I'm 5. I need you to step in and give me an answer on this because I don't know what I'm reading here. So what I definitely do first off is if I had $1 million, pay off debt would be the first thing, just to kind of have like a clear slate for that. I'd put aside a big chunk of that for my rental costs and housing, literally just take like $200,000 or whatever and just be like, this is just to block out the cost of rent for the foreseeable future. I take most of that and I would move it into investments. That way it could start to grow, especially money at that amount. It's kind of a boring answer, but if you put that much into investments, especially, and by that I don't mean like fucking crypto or some shady thing. I mean like I would put it into a very boring investment account like the one that I currently have with the little bit of money I have in it. And I would just focus on developing that. And what you can do that's nice that no one fucking tells you is like a thing of like, how do rich people afford everything? So if you have a bunch of money in a retirement, not a retirement account, in just a regular stock account, a brokerage account, what most brokerage firms will do is if you have a certain amount of money, especially a lot of money, you can buy all these stocks and you can buy your index funds and do all these, boring safe purchases, stuff that is, in the long term, you can probably retire with these stocks and they'll grow in value and they're pretty safe companies and all that. You can buy stocks, and then rather than, if you need the money out of there, instead of selling those stocks to get the money back, you can take a loan from the brokerage company and they'll use your stocks as collateral. What this means is if you were to say put $500,000 into a really safe, boring investment account with safe, boring investments that were not too volatile, you could then say, okay, I am also going to withdraw a $300,000 loan from you at a really low interest rate, especially compared to like a credit card that's really high or like a loan company that's really shady. You can get it for like 3 or 4% APR. I'm pretty sure it varies. It fluctuates on a few factors, but I think right now it's like 4 point something. You could invest all the money and then withdraw part of it as a loan. And that way you don't have to sell any of your stocks. The stocks that you have continue to grow in value as the years go on. But you could say, take that amount out as a loan to invest in a project like, say, if I was opening a restaurant, if I was doing a big creative project that, took a lot of work and a lot of actors and all that, and I needed to rent gear or equipment for it or studio space. But it was something that I'm like, okay, I can take a loan for this now because this is an investment in something that should make money back creatively over time. So you can do that, and then you just have to pay it back, and then the interest is relatively low on it, and then you still get to keep all those stocks, and you're not fucking up your stocks by selling them off early because you want to hold on to them if they're good stocks. So this is very technical for, again, this is one of those where I'm like, if you're not into finance, this may be very boring. Also, because like I said before, this is not financial advice. To put a very big disclaimer on this, investing in stocks and then taking loan money out with stocks as collateral can be a terrible idea for most people. Because if you waste that money and you can't repay it, you will lose your stocks and you will be more in the hole. So to be clear, this is like one of those things you can do if you have a ton of money. That's why rich people do this. And that's why they're able to do it with not as much risk to their own personal finances, because they can do it and not be just out of pocket pulling that money. They can take it out as a loan and not affect their day-to-day finances. So this is just an FYI for what the kind of things that are available to you if you reach a certain quantity of earnings that are not available to the layperson, you know? So anyway, that's probably what I do with it. And I just do, I'd find a new house, but I would find somewhere that would be more reasonable. I wouldn't be using my $1 million to find somewhere extravagant and then be broke. I'd find somewhere that suits my needs, but that I could afford to use that money to pay for, not worry about it for, a few years of rent without any issue easily while I work on other projects. So it would be, if I had $1 million, it would be very boring. I wouldn't change very much about my lifestyle. I would make myself more comfortable. I would clear out debt, and I would set myself up to have stuff paid in advance for as long as I could. That way I had lots of kind of runway to be creative and not stressed. That's my biggest thing. Money for me is not the main focus. It's because I've gotten a much better, as I've gotten older, viewpoint of money, as realizing it's a wonderful tool to take stress off so you can keep being creative. The money does not give me identity. It does not make me necessarily more creative, but it removes obstacles and stresses and concerns in life that come about, because life is tough and expensive, That's one reason why I don't talk much about being a content creator and about finances, on my socials or on, using my platform. But it's tough because doing this, it doesn't make much money, like, especially at the time of recording this video. For future Dom listening, I hope you're doing really well. I hope the money's rolling in from all the creative work and all that. But for the moment, through no fault of anyone, it just doesn't make very much because it's just hard to make a living doing this. But that's okay, because my goal long-term is to go, okay, I want to keep doing this long enough and hopefully reach enough people who are interested in my work and watch it and share it. And, it lands with enough and resonates, I should say, with enough people that it can kind of start to earn enough where I can pay my bills month to month with it fully and take some of that pressure off, because then that's going to give me a chance to actually create more. It's going to give me the opportunity to be able to push even further with ideas and projects I want to do without so much pressure kind of pushing things along, of needing to keep up with the content creating for the sake of building the platform and building a following and that kind of stuff, the stuff that, are worries. And you can't eat creativity. You have to think, okay, I got to do this, and I got to think and have a game plan that hopefully will grow what I'm doing and earn money over time. But you can't let that be the sole reason. The money is not the end goal. The money is one step along my creative route that would then free up more opportunities. And then down the road, if I had all my kind of base needs taken care of fully by my creative work and we're getting paid decently for it, and I had extra money left over, that would give me a chance to do more creative stuff. That's the cool thing. Like, I would be able to afford to work on more. I could afford filmmaking projects. I could afford to collaborate on other people's creative projects, to try things that might not work, to try to do, I've always wanted to run a small theater company, and it's just expensive to rent a theater. It would give me freedom to try that, So that's the thing. It's growing up, you have to both have this vision for yourself that says, I can see myself reaching a point where I am financially secure. I'm not going to succumb to despair by telling myself I'll never get there, because then I'm going to set myself up to fail. But I'm also going to tell myself that money is not my goal for happiness. I am working towards this financial goal to free myself up even more so to get to enjoy life more and to be able to expand what I get to do and share with everyone even more so. And that's very much kind of where my mindset's at. So with that said, I want to say thank you, as I always kind of feel like I want to start and end these kind of audios where I'm talking to you directly, to say thank you. Like, you make an immeasurable difference just by enjoying what I make, truly. Like, even if you're not, like, again, like, people that are, obviously I make channels available like my Patreon, so people can, if they want to support in a more direct financial way. And once again, it's for big girls and boys only, 18 and up only, I swear to God. Don't fucking bother me if you're underage on those other profiles, all right? I will block you. I don't fuck with that. I try to be very responsible about this shit. But with that said, though, again, that's why I make those channels available. So if you do want to go support me directly, it's an option. But also, that's why I try to do so much work, especially here on YouTube, where just you watching it makes a difference. You just enjoying when I'm making a new series or a new video or playing a new game. You just watching it and getting to experience it, that helps me a lot, Like, especially, you know, those of you who have been here for a really long time, you know, because I've been doing this for a while and just now seeing the sort of the rate of growth on the channel kind of intensify. And it's really exciting to see that because it's a long time coming. It takes a while to build momentum, and it's cool to see it starting to move in that direction. Because more people get to enjoy the stuff that I'm making, and I really like that. I'm really proud of what I make. It gives me more chance to make more stuff because the more people who see it, you know, the more that starts to help me. That frees things up. I get to earn more off of my creativity. And again, like I said, just thank you. Like sincerely, it's every artist's dream, no matter what you create, to be able to make it and have people who are excited for it. That's a really great feeling. It really does keep me going a lot of times to go, you know what, I might be tired right now and I might need to give myself a rest or a break or whatever, but it's a great thing to go, you know what, when I'm a little bit rested up and when I go and get back and throw myself into my creative work and I go be productive, it's fucking worth it. One, because what I'm making, I'm proud of and I'm putting my heart and soul into it, but also because when I post it, no matter how it does on the algorithm, whatever, like when I post it, there's going to be people who are excited to hear it, who are going to be engaged in the story and the characters and are going to be commenting interesting things and funny things and are going to be, you know, curious to see where it goes next, you know, and I'm like, that's a great fucking feeling. So thank you for that. Thank you for your enthusiasm, your excitement over what I've been making. It's really palpable. And especially a lot of the encouragement and positivity. Fucking keep that up. And not just for me, keep that up for yourselves too, all right? I hope for anyone who listens to what I make, if it's of any encouragement to you, to invest, even just kind of with your time, invest more in your own creativity, whatever it might be. Again, creativity can mean many things, you know? If you're gonna design a cool building, that's creative as fuck, you know? There's no limits on it. If you're an amazing chef, you're very creative. Like, this is what I mean. Creativity can be any field you're in that taps into whatever inspires you. And I hope that if my work does, if anything, if it encourages even a little bit of that in a few people, it's super fucking worth it. So anyway, I'll end on that note. I will do another one of these. I think I'll do another part 2 because, like I said, there were a lot of questions I didn't even get to that are really good and worthwhile topics, and I would love to chat about. So, but we'll do that next time. You're welcome to tune into that. I'll have it out sometime soon. So enjoy this for now. Be good to others. Be good to yourself. Enjoy the audios, and I'm gonna get back to work. All right, I can't just sit here rambling on about all this silly stuff with you all the time. I'm just kidding. I could do this forever. It's really fun. So anyway, all right, take care. All right. And I will see you around, I don't know, whatever the next thing I do. I'll see you around in the next audio, the next meditation, the next gaming experience. And I hope you're there. All right. I hope you're there having a fun time, getting to blow some steam off and just enjoy immersing yourself in the story or the gameplay or the jokes or whatever it is we're doing that time. So, all right, take care. And I'll see you around. Bye.